Hello and welcome to a little tip video for new players on TERA, mainly focused towards the console version. So when you start TERA, you're greeted with a very important screen, which is the server select screen, and it always raises up that simple question of which server do I play on? What is the most populated server? Well, in terms of the console version, so whichever server doesn't have the new symbol next to it generally will have more population than the more recent new servers, because the old servers were back when the influx of early access players were allowed in, and the new servers were introduced later on, so they'll naturally have much smaller population. But does it matter? Well, not really, because most dungeons, battlegrounds, etc. are all cross-server. It generally doesn't matter if your server is dead or not. And the absolute worst case scenario is if you are on a dead server with barely anyone around, they'll just simply merge your server into another one for a much higher population. So there is no point in worrying about which server is more populated. Just choose the one which your friends are on, and if you don't have any friends playing it, then just select one which you like the sound of. After a server select screen, you'll of course be asked to choose your race and class, and you might be thinking to yourself, what is best for me? Well, just don't worry about it. On the console version, there is no such thing as a DPS meter. So knowing who's doing the best DPS, who's having that absolute min-max DPS that people on PC will be more sought after, is kind of redundant on console, because there's no way of telling who's doing the absolute best DPS and who's doing good DPS. Of course, you can still tell who's doing the lowest DPS, because they'll obviously hinder your group quite a lot, and it becomes very noticeable who's not pulling their weight. As for the classes themselves, take a look around the forums, take a look around fan sites, and most importantly, take a look on YouTube to see which class plays like what. I know Berserker is pretty much a trap class for some people, because they see, oh wow, a big old axe hitting really hard, but then they find out it's more about charging up your abilities and hitting really hard. They kind of get a bit put off by it and ultimately drop the class. So do watch out for that. Just make sure that you know what you're doing before you actually play the class. Of course, there is always the point of, if you really don't like your class and you want to start a new one, you of course have a second character slot which is available to all 3 players, because remember you get 2 per account, and then you usually get more character slots as new classes get added in. So if you do want to delete your character because you don't like it, just remember that above level 40, there is a 24-hour waiting period before that character actually gets deleted. So if you hit delete, you'll need to wait 24 hours before the character is gone. So bear that in mind if you want to keep your name that you had. Now below that, it's just instant. You just delete the character, make a new character, and take your name back. It's very quick and easy. So it is something to watch out for if you are deleting a high level character. It's also a good idea to know which role your class is doing. Now this is a very big thing on console at the moment, with people playing Brawlers thinking they are a DPS class. Well, this is not the case. Lancers and Brawlers are both dedicated tanks. They have no other roles, they are just there for tanking. Warriors and Berserkers, they are a DPS class, yet they can tank, Warriors being an evasion tank, and Berserkers being a damage tank, much like the Brawler, but it has a lot less utility than the Brawler itself. And then of course for DPS, we have the Warrior, we have the Slayer, we have the Berserker, we have the Ninja, we have the Valkyrie, and of course the Reaper as your melee DPS. The Reaper is more of a mid-range DPS because it can get away with staying quite a distance away from the boss, but it's still a melee nonetheless. Then of course we have the Gunner, we have the Archer, and the Sorcerer as the ranged DPS. In terms of healing, you have the Priest and the Mystic. So Priests should be considered more of the bog standard healing class. They're very easy to pick up, and they have some quite nice utility, such as an AoE that gives back mana and energy to classes. And Mystics are more unique because they generally drop their balls everywhere, and they require people to eat their balls constantly in order to regenerate mana and health. So it can be a bit difficult to get used to if you are new to the game. Another fairly obvious tip is of course the dungeon queue system. If you're a DPS, it's going to take a hell of a lot longer to get into a dungeon queue than if you were a tank or a healer. Of course, after level 40 is when people can create a Reaper. Now this is where things get clogged up for DPSs, because there's now a metric ton of Reapers running around who are all wanting to get into a dungeon, so it kind of pushes the DPS queue up even higher. And of course the last little piece of information that I have time to give is of course costumes. Where can I get a nice costume? Well, outside the fashion coupons which can be obtained from killing BAMs, you can get them from events which are generally come every now and again throughout the year. There are routine events that come such as summer or Halloween or Christmas that can give you a chance to get a lot of nice little costumes. And of course there are like these little one-off events from like the League of Levelers event which give you a crap ton of fashion coupons for you to spend on a costume. Now what I will mention is that the upcoming event will be the summer event, which is where you can get a bunch of swimsuits. The only problem with this event is it's usually rolled together with another event which requires a high level character. I can't actually remember the level, I think it's level 50. So if you want to actually farm this event, which you can on each individual characters, you will need to have a lot of high level characters. So when the event was here last time, I had enough character slots unlocked to be able to farm it on about 5 characters. But unfortunately for consoles, we're going to go into this event, if we do have it, with only 2 slots at max for a free player. So you are going to be quite limited on what you can get. But anyway, that is it for this video. I hope it is helpful, and I'll be back with some more TERA related content at some point soon. Bye bye.